One quiet morning, the sound of breaking porcelain shattered the peace. Ilara stopped moving, startled, and the scone she was eating fell from her hand. Her eyes turned to the doorway, where her mother, Serafina, was standing. Serafina's face showed a mix of emotions, but anger was the strongest. Serafina had just returned from the garden and had seen something she wasn't meant to see. She had caught Ilara in a moment of closeness with someone forbidden. It was not just anyone. It was Caspian, Ilara's own father and Serafina's husband. The memory of that moment in the garden came rushing back to Ilara. She remembered how wrong it was and how it had felt like something she couldn't stop. Her heart was racing, and her mother's disappointment felt unbearable. Caspian stood silently behind Serafina. He didn't deny anything. His silence confirmed it all. Caspian tried to speak, to explain, but Serafina was too hurt. She felt betrayed by the two people she loved most. Ilara's chest tightened. Her thoughts spun wildly. She knew what her mother had seen. She didn't need to ask. The garden, the touches, the shame. Ilara was left in tears, her world beginning to fall apart. Serafina turned and left the room without another word. The sound of her footsteps fading down the hallway was louder than any scream. That day shattered their family. Afterward, Serafina became a ghost inside her own home. She didn't speak to Ilara or Caspian. She moved through the house without looking at either of them. Her eyes, once filled with life, now looked as if something inside her had died. Ilara tried to speak to her. She begged silently for a chance to explain, but Serafina couldn't bear to hear her voice. Caspian, too, had been banished. He stayed in the guest room now, far from the bedroom he had once shared with his wife. The house grew colder each day. What had once been a home full of laughter became a shell filled with silence and guilt. One evening, Serafina asked to speak with Ilara alone. Her voice was tired, her body thinner, weaker. She told Ilara she was leaving the next morning. She said she couldn't live under the same roof with either of them. Not when everything reminded her of what had happened. She didn't say where she would go. She didn't say when or if she'd ever return. She said she could not forgive. Not now. Maybe not ever. The next morning, Ilara stood by the window and watched her mother's carriage disappear down the road. It felt like the end of everything. Caspian came to stand beside her. He reached out, but she pulled away. She couldn't stand his touch anymore. Blame hung in the air like poison. Years passed. Ilara and Caspian still lived in the manor, but they barely spoke. They shared a roof, but not a life. Both were lost in their own sadness and shame. The walls of the house closed in on them slowly, quietly. Ilara tried to move forward, but nothing felt real anymore. She had destroyed something precious. Her mother's trust, her own innocence, the family they once had. The guilt followed her everywhere, like a shadow that never left. Caspian drifted further into himself. He barely spoke, barely ate. He spent his days wandering the garden like a ghost, surrounded by flowers that once held meaning, now only reminders. One day, a letter came in Serafina's handwriting. Ilara opened it with shaking hands. The message was short. Serafina wrote that she had found peace, that she had managed to forgive, even if she could never forget. The words should have brought comfort, but instead, they brought a different kind of pain. Serafina had moved on. She had found a way to survive without them. She no longer needed them. Her forgiveness was not for healing. It was a goodbye. Ilara brought the letter to her father, who sat quietly in the garden. He read it slowly, then stared at the sky, his eyes empty. They said nothing to each other. Days later, Ilara found Caspian lifeless in his study. A bottle of wine lay beside him. His heart had stopped, or maybe he had simply given up. She buried him alone. After that, Ilara remained in the house, aging quickly. She didn't go outside. She didn't speak to anyone. She let the place rot around her. The garden overgrown, the roof leaking, the windows broken. The neighbors stopped checking in. She became a story people whispered about. One day, her body was found in her bedroom. She had died quietly, alone, just like her father. The letter from her mother still sat on the table beside her. No funeral was held. No one came to claim her. The house was eventually torn down. No one wanted to live there. Locals said it was cursed. And maybe it was. Because what had once been a family had turned into nothing but broken pieces, scattered and forgotten. Their love, the wrong kind, had destroyed them all. And in the end, there was no peace, only silence.